year is 53 BCE. Tell me, what happens when the richest man in Rome, a man who crushed Spartacus, decides that gold alone is not enough? What happens when ambition drives him to chase glory in the deserts of the East? At Carrhae, Marcus Crassus will gamble it all and lose everything.
Glory is bought, and I, Marcus Licinius Crassus, have the coin to pay for it. Parthia will fall before Rome, and my name will rise above Caesar and Pompey.
But history had other plans. Welcome to the podcast. Battles that shaped Europe.
We shall never surrender!
Part 1. The World Before the Battle. Rome rules the Mediterranean. Carthage is ash. Greece is humbled. Spain is pacified. The Mediterranean is no longer a sea of rivals. It is Mare Nostrum, our sea, Rome's sea. And yet, is Rome satisfied? Never. Rome is hunger dressed in armor. At home, 3 men share power. Pompey, master of Spain and the seas, Caesar, conquering Gaul in a storm of blood, and Crassus, the richest man alive, his vaults overflowing with gold. But in Rome, gold without glory is emptiness. To stand equal to Caesar and Pompey, Crassus needs conquest. But where? To the west? Impossible. Spain is Pompey's stage, his victories carved into its soil. To the north? Caesar's Gaul, a battlefield dripping with triumph and loyalty, his personal empire in the making. To challenge him there would mean civil war. And what of Germany, beyond the Rhine? The tribes are fierce, the forests endless, the rewards meager. No cities to plunder, no treasures to parade in triumph. Glory? Perhaps. Profit? None.
Caesar wastes his strength among barbarians in mud huts. Let him have his Gauls, let the Germans howl in their forests. I am not chasing savages through swamps. I seek kingdoms, thrones, treasures.
And so his gaze turns east, to Parthia. Rich, unbroken, untamed, the one power Rome has not yet crushed. An empire born of Alexander's legacy. Masters of cavalry, guardians of the Silk Road. Can you imagine the prize? Silk, spices, gold, jewels, wealth beyond wealth. And the glory? To equal Alexander himself.
Caesar has Gaul, Pompey has Spain, and I will have Parthia. Greater than Gaul, richer than Spain. My name will eclipse them both. Alexander marched east, and the world still whispers his name. Why should mine not echo the same?
But ambition is a fire that blinds as well as burns. And for Crassus, the flames lead not to triumph, but to Carrhae. But before swords clash, before the desert storm begins, both armies gather. Let us see who comes to the field. Part 2. The Armies Gather. Crassus commands nearly 40,000 men, 7 legions of heavy infantry, the iron backbone of Rome, supported by auxiliaries and a few thousand cavalry, a hammer of flesh and steel. Unstoppable, right? Or so Crassus believes.
My legions are the wall of Rome. No cavalry trick, No arrow storm can break men who stand as one. Against 40,000 Romans, who can stand?
Facing them is a smaller army, perhaps 10,000 horse archers and 1,000 cataphracts under the command of Serena. But Parthia's strength lies not in numbers, but in style. Horse archers swarm like wasps, loosing arrows while retreating, perfecting the dreaded Parthian shot. Behind them, the cataphracts, cavalry clad in iron, horses armored to the eyes, charging with lances like battering rams. Serena knows he cannot crush Rome head-on, but he doesn't need to. The desert is his ally, wide, flat, merciless, a battlefield built for cavalry, not infantry.
Desert horsemen tricks, nothing more. I'll force them to stand, then grind them beneath the weight of Rome. Steel wins wars, not dust and arrows.
Two armies, two worlds. Rome, master of infantry. Parthia, lord of the horse. Which will break? The stage is set. The drums begin. Now, Carrhae. Part 3. Into the Fray. Crassus stood at a crossroads. Armenia's king pleaded with him, take the mountains, where horsemen cannot maneuver, or march along the rivers, where food and water are plentiful. Yet Crassus scoffed at both. He chose the open plain, wide, bare, merciless. The one battlefield where Roman infantry was weakest. Pride, as ever, clouded his judgment.
Mountains? Rivers? No. Rome does not skulk. Rome marches straight, proud, unbroken. The world will watch as I crush them in the open field.
Dawn broke over the desert in silence. Only the creak of leather straps, the rasp of sharpened iron, and the dry wind whispering across the sand. The legions waited, tense, alert. And then it came. A sound, deep and steady. Drums. The ground itself trembled. A veil of dust rose on the horizon.
At last, they come. This is the day history remembers my name.
Out of the haze they emerged like a mirage. Parthian horsemen, glittering under the sun. Banners snapping in the wind, armor gleaming like fire. The drums quickened, pounding like a heartbeat, until the whole plain seemed alive with their approach.
Noise and dust, theater. Once we close, they'll scatter like slaves before Spartacus.
But then the sky darkened. A storm descended, not of clouds, but of arrows. They whistled and screamed through the air, striking shields, flesh, and sand. The legions closed ranks, shields locked tight. Yet still the rain fell. Arrow after arrow, volley after volley. Relentless, unending.
Shields up! Hold! Their quivers will empty and then we march. No storm lasts forever.
But this storm did. Camels appeared behind the Parthian lines, each laden with fresh quivers. Arrows flowed as fast as Roman blood. The sky itself seemed bent on Rome's destruction.
Endless arrows! Endless circling! Cowards! Face me steel to steel! Not like jackals on horseback!
Then the drums shifted. The ground quaked. The cataphracts advanced. Heavy cavalry encased in iron, their lances leveled, their chargers pounding like thunder. They smashed into the Roman line with the force of an avalanche. Shields splintered. Men screamed. Ranks buckled. And then, Just as suddenly, they wheeled away. The arrows resumed their ceaseless rain. The cycle, crush and withdraw, storm and retreat, repeated without end.
Stand! Close ranks! Rome does not yield! Hold! Hold!
Through the chaos, one figure rode out. Publius, Crassus's son. With desperate courage, he led a cavalry charge straight into the storm. For a heartbeat, hope stirred. The horse archers fell back before him, but it was a snare. The Romans were encircled, swallowed by Parthian riders. Publius fought to the last. When the dust settled, his head was lifted high on a spear, shown to his father's men.
Publius, my son, no. I led you here. My pride has killed you.
The legions faltered. Fear spread like fire. The storm of arrows raged on, relentless. By nightfall, Rome's strength was broken. Crassus ordered retreat. The survivors staggered toward Carrhae, shattered, desperate. There, surrounded, he sought parley with the Parthians and walked into doom. The battle was lost. The legions lay scattered. And Rome, mighty Rome, paid the price of pride. Part 4. The Price of Victory. In Carrhae, the night is full of whispers. The wounded groan, the thirsty beg. Men desert in the darkness. And Crassus, broken, humiliated, he agrees to meet Surenna. Could words now salvage what swords have already lost? Could pride be patched with diplomacy?
I am Rome's consul, a triumvir! If I cannot win with steel, then I will win with speech. Rome may forgive defeat, but it will never forgive annihilation.
But there is no trust. Surenna surrounds the Romans with horsemen. Voices rise, tempers flare, hands grasp at weapons. And in the chaos, Crassus falls. The richest man in Rome, who dreamed of wearing Alexander's crown, dies choking in foreign dust. Tell me, can ambition end more bitterly than this? Legend says molten gold was poured into his mouth, so that the man who worshipped wealth would drink his fill in death. Is it true, or simply a tale too perfect not to tell? Either way, the story flew like fire, branding him forever with greed.
No, not like this, not mocked, not forgotten.
Rome is shattered. 20,000 Romans lie dead, another 10,000 captured, marched east, vanishing into a world they will never return from. And the proud eagles of the legions? Seized, displayed in Parthian temples. It is one of the worst defeats in Rome's long history. And Surenna? Oh, his triumph is glorious. He parades Roman captives in mock battles, humiliating the might of the West. But what happens when glory outshines the king himself? Envy, fear. Within a year, King Orodes executes Surenna. Even victory can be fatal. For Parthia, Carrhae is proof that it is Rome's equal. Never again can Rome dismiss Parthia as mere horsemen of the East. Carrhae sets a balance of power that will last for centuries. And for Rome, the consequences are catastrophic. With Crassus dead, the first triumvirate collapses. What happens when Caesar and Pompey, no longer bound by a third, turn on one another? Civil war. Carrhae is not just a defeat. It is the spark that consumes the Republic. And out of its ashes, an empire rises. But battles do not end with corpses and politics. They echo, In stories, in legends, even in our very language. Listen closely, and you can still hear those echoes. Part 5. Echoes from the Past. Carrhae did not end when swords fell silent. No, its echoes ripple still, through shards of pottery, stray arrowheads, and the ink-stained pages of ancient historians. Isn't it remarkable that a single day on a dusty plain can still whisper to us, 2,000 years later? On the Harran Plain, ancient Carrhae, archaeologists uncover scattered clues, fragments of armor, arrowheads built for the deadly snap of composite bows, traces of camps near old river routes. No single smoking gun grave has yet been found, but the landscape itself tells the truth. Open, flat, merciless. A battlefield designed perfectly for horse archers to encircle Roman infantry. Even today, plows turn up Roman shards in nearby fields, as though the earth itself still coughs up fragments of that day's disaster. And what of the captives? Did they vanish into Parthian towns, leaving faint fingerprints of Mediterranean culture in Persian and Central Asian settlements? Some whisper they wandered farther still, perhaps even to China's distant borders. Fact or legend? Reports of strange formations in later battles tantalize, but the evidence? Thin, fragile, tempting, yet uncertain. Our clearest window is not in bones, but in books. Plutarch sketches pride and downfall. Cassius Dio records strategy and catastrophe. Florus and Velleius thunder with Roman indignation. But from the Parthian side, silence. Their victory survives only in Roman retellings, reshaped through time. Even Augustus's Res Gestae, decades later, brags not of conquest, but of recovering lost eagles. Proof that the shame of Carrhae still smoldered in Rome's heart.
So, ink survives my iron. Let them write. Let them weigh my name on their scales of virtue and vice. My deeds are their pages, and their words my monument.
Today, historians blend those words with the ground itself, roots and wells, wind and dust, the physics of arrows against locked shields. And the picture is stark. A Roman army built for Europe, stranded in a theater that belonged to riders and bows. And the echoes reach even into our language. The dreaded Parthian shot. The arrow loosed while feigning retreat lingers as our parting shot. That last stinger delivered while turning away. 2 millennia later, the tactic still bites. But imagine this. What if those arrows had flown differently? What if pride had bent to prudence? How different might Europe have been? The question lingers still. What if? Part 6. What if? What if Crassus had listened? What if he had taken Armenia's mountain roads where cavalry is useless? What if he had followed the rivers where supplies flow steady? What if caution had checked ambition? Imagine it. Serena forced into close ground, cataphracts blunted, archers trapped. Imagine Crassus victorious. But tell me, what would Rome have gained?
Well, then Rome would have wedded steel to silk. I would have opened the gates of the East, and its treasures would have poured into our forum.
A Roman win at Carrhae could have detonated through Europe like thunder. First, the Silk Road jackpot. Reliable corridors under Roman protection. Caravans of silk, spice, glass, and gold flooding Italy a century early. Wealth reshaping policy. Policy reshaping power. What would that mean for Rome's markets, its artisans, its finance?
It means a republic richer than the world has ever seen. Merchants thriving, nobles fattened, and Rome's coffers bursting.
Second, geopolitics. Picture a humbled Parthia, or a client Parthia, anchoring Rome's eastern flank. Caesar in Gaul, Pompey in Spain, Crassus in the east. A triumvirate of true equals. Would that delay civil war or sharpen it? Three titans, each adored by their soldiers, each swollen with loot. Does the republic stagger on in fragile balance, or collapse later, harder, under three rival emperors instead of one?
Then let it be 3 emperors, for I would stand among them, equal to Caesar, equal to Pompey.
Third, culture itself. With Parthia bent, embassies might have probed deeper into Central Asia. Could Rome have brushed hands with the Han centuries earlier? Not legions on the Great Wall, but messengers, treaties, trade standards. Imagine paper, lacquer, new metallurgy, crossing westward far ahead of schedule. How much faster might Europe's clock have ticked?
Oh, picture it. Augustus before Augustus. A Rome enriched, unassailable, eternal, and my name, not another's, carved into history's crown.
But here is the darker mirror. What if victory made Rome too rich too soon? The Silk Road's torrent feeding inequality, swelling private armies, politics bought and sold like slaves. Would the Republic have shattered? Not into one principate, but into warlord kingdoms? A Europe carved apart by rival Roman strongmen, instead of united under a single Augustus. And the hardest question of all, was Rome's loss at Carrhae good for Europe? Crassus's death toppled the triumvirate, clearing the path for Caesar. Out of defeat came paradox. A stronger, more durable empire that built roads, pacified seas, and stabilized law and coin. Without Carrhae, does Rome learn restraint, or does unchecked triumph burn it out even faster?
So my ruin became Rome's remedy. If that is victory, then let history keep it.
Perhaps Carrhae, awful as it was, helped forge the empire that followed. A Rome that knew its limits in the east, bargained for eagles instead of bleeding for them, and learned to rule the world it already held. In losing a battle, did Rome discover how to win an age? But history does not wander among the what-ifs. It opens but a single door, and beyond it lies the world we call our own. Carrhae left Rome humbled, a legion destroyed, a triumvir slain, the republic fractured. Yet while the east rang with Parthian victory, the west boiled with rebellion. In Gaul, a new chieftain rises, Vercingetorix, charismatic, ruthless, a unifier of tribes long divided. And he dares to defy Rome's greatest commander, Julius Caesar. But who will outlast the other? The rebel or the conqueror?
They call him the savior of Gaul? Let him gather every tribe, every warrior, every last ounce of defiance. The greater his strength, the greater my triumph. For when I break him, the world will know Caesar's name.
Where Crassus fell in folly, Caesar will be tested in fire. At Alesia, walls within walls, desperation against discipline will decide nothing less than the fate of Europe. Join us next time in Battles That Shaped Europe. The Battle of Alesia, 52 BCE.